What's up? Hope everyone's having a good day and is ready for another video in the series we like to call Underrated Throwers. Today we got a very special one. I think a very important thrower in history that I feel does not get a lot of credit. He is called Paolo del Soglio, I think. I probably messed that up. I always mess up the names. Italian shot putter. This is him at the 1996 Olympic Finals. This is a throw that put him in the lead, but he didn't get a medal here. I think he got like fourth or fifth or something. But he is probably best known nowadays as the Italian national coach for shot put, and coaches throwers such as Zane Weir and Fabbri. So, two 22-plus meter throwers and one world championship silver medalist, so you already know he's an amazing coach. But I think he's a very revolutionary thrower, and I think he's the inspiration for a lot of throwers to come. And the reason I say this is because I don't know if you guys notice, but he's starting offset, and especially during this time, a lot of people did not start offset like this. And you'll see similarities as we go through between him and the people he coaches. They hit a lot of the same positions. One similar thing, too, is they all start offset. That's become a trademark in Italian throws, who I believe has some of the best technique. Paolo Di Soglio is 6'3", and I forget how much he weighs. I think like 260 or something. So he's not that big. I'll link all his accomplishments, personal best. He's a 21-29, I think, personal best. But I'll link that in the video description. Well, I won't link it, but I'll tell you guys in the video description. And his height, weight, and notable accomplishments as always. And yeah, I think this right here, I really have never seen anybody do this until Adam Nelson. But Adam Nelson didn't start offsetting until a little later in his career. Like, not at the beginning, I would say around, I think past 2005. I could be wrong about that. But I think this throw right here in particularly really influenced me in a lot of ways, because we'll play it full speed. So he does a lot of stuff that a lot of throwers of this era did not do. And he throws a lot like a modern day thrower in many ways. So I think he was very ahead of his time. And I love what he does through the ring. So let's get started. One, love this offset. I feel for shorter people, offset's very good because it allows you to throw like you're a taller guy. And 6'3" is like not like short, but he's not the tallest guy you'll see throw shot. Like, he's not that tall for a shot putter. So I really like this offset for shorter people. I think if you're technically sound enough and you want to give it a try, I think it can lead to a lot more bigger throws because it increases the ring size, basically. So you get all this to turn out the back, so you get to get a lot more momentum out the back, rather than if you started here and here and he only gets this rather than this. So that increases a lot. And some notable throwers that do this is, Tom Walsh, probably the furthest person who offsets. Ryan Krauser kind of offsets, but not really. He offsets a little bit, not nearly as drastic as this. So Adam Nelson, Tom Walsh, Zane Weir, Fabbri, they all offset. They all throw way past 22. And I don't know. I have never seen anybody up to this point through rotational history like do an offset. So I think this is very revolutionary, and I think it started a trend that I see a lot of people doing today now. So I think he was just very ahead of his time. And we'll talk about something he does in the finish too that's also very ahead of its time. Alright, but we'll get to that. So really like this out the back. I feel like he kind of falls in a little. I feel like he could get a little wider this way. But it's not bad. He gets a good line here. A good stack. So his butt's just kind of shooting out a little. But it's fine. This sweep is one of the only things I don't really like. I prefer a lower sweep. A low to high sweep. Like kind of like what Tom Walsh does. But this is just a style back then. Back then, a lot of people really liked high sweeps. So you'll see kind of the right knee and the right foot kind of kick up a little. Right here. And then go wide instead of going really wide and staying low and then going up. So it's just a style. Some people do it today, but it's a lot less common when you see people that actually know what you're doing. Nowadays, this kind of sweep would kind of be considered a mistake, in my opinion. But it's not bad. I mean, you know, he's an Olympian, so obviously he knows what he's doing. And especially because he's a really, really good coach. All right. So right here, he gets right here. Really nice stop of the left side. Really likes to turn around it. This position right here is kind of reminiscent to Christian Cantwell a little. If you guys saw my video on him. How he kind of drops the left arm a little. I don't know why he does that. Because he's not that tall. Normally you see people drop this left arm when they're like 6'6" plus, 6'5" plus foot tall. But, you know. This just his style. This is a lot of people did this back then. It's not very common. You're taught normally you see a lot of throwers nowadays will have more of a flat arms and have the left arm up to act a little more like a counterbalance. But if you move this fast across the ring, it doesn't really matter. So a really nice. Oh, and one thing I will say, I think he does this to get a good angle because, especially noticed in this competition, I think they took this video off, but they used to have the full competition on YouTube in the 1996 Olympics, where Randy Barnes won, and John Godina, I think, got second. But he does this, I think, because, and I don't know if he normally throws like this. This is literally the only video I could find of him. I don't know why, but yeah. So he was throwing a little flat in this comp. So I don't know if he changed this for this comp or he normally throws like this. But normally you see people drop this left arm to create more of an angle, to get more of an exaggerated orbit so they can get a higher release point. So that's normally why you see people do it, if they're doing it on purpose. Otherwise, if they do it on purpose and it works for them, that's fine. Because you see here, it allows them to get a good lift on the shot. But generally, I personally don't like that. But to each his own. I prefer to create that more with the hip, which he does a good job of here. And gets a really nice stack. Really nice sprint. So you really want to push off this left foot. Notice how it's not locked out. You never lock out your left leg out the back when you sprint. Alright, you want to think about going forward. If you lock out your left leg, you're going to go up and you're going to just jump. Alright, so you kind of want to feel like you're going out of blocks a little. But like a sprinter pushing off with this left foot. Alright, and you notice the timing here. So I think a lot of people miss the timing of the sprint. And the timing of the sprint's really critical. So if you're a right-handed thrower, you want to sprint when the right leg is on this side of the ring. All right, and he does an amazing job. So he's off the left here, and it's on that side of the ring. So he lands perfectly in the middle. I would personally like a little pre-turn, but it doesn't really matter. I personally like a pre-turn because he has to work the ground a little longer, but and his hips are moving a little slower than they could be, but it's not bad. Both his throwers do a pre-turn, so I wonder if he just made a mistake here. I don't know if he normally does a pre-turn because, again, this is the only video I've found of him. So I wish I had a video on his 21-meter throw. I think this was like high 20s or something. High 20 meters, but yeah. So he's here. Oh, sorry. I got lost train of thought. So yeah, I was explaining this. So the reason why you want to start sprinting and get off your left foot when your sweep leg is here is because if you were to stay grounded a little longer, then your right foot's going to land early. And that means that your left leg's going to be really slow to go to the ground, like to get past your right leg and to go to the front. And you're going to have a tendency to land super heavy on your right foot in the middle. So you're going to have a tendency to collapse at the hips and lose a lot of power and speed. All right. And another reason why you want to sprint while your sweep leg is here is because earlier, if you sprint a little later, he's going to over-rotate and go down this sector. And you don't want to go down this sector. I normally tell people sprint down this sector. But because you're rotating at such speeds, you're not going to actually go down this sector. You're going to go down the middle. All right? If you tell people to go down the middle, generally they're going to over-rotate and go that way. All right? But never tell a right-handed thrower to go down this sector. That's bad. Over-rotation is a lot worse than under-rotation. At least in the middle. I would rather you get down faster than slower. But down the middle is perfect. So I normally tell people to sprint when they see the right sector line. Right here. So that's normally what I tell people. And he does a great job of that. Alright, so he does a great job there. Really nice holding the left arm. And this position right here, so he's a little blocked off. Because his right foot kind of stops, so it kind of stops him turning a little. So if he was to keep turning this right foot, and if he was a little pre-turned, his left foot would have landed perfectly. But it's not bad. So because he's a little blocked off, he throws that way instead of down the middle. But it's not bad by any means. It's a solid comp throw. Like in a competition, you shouldn't really be worried about technical things, like little technical things like this. You shouldn't really have a thought in your mind when you're in competition. You should be just ready to drop some bombs on it on the field, but that's just my opinion. So he's here, really nice. And another reason why I like the pre-turn, especially for shorter people. Taller people, it's really hard to do it just because you will just ground sooner just because your legs are just longer. So for shorter people, and I consider a shorter shot putter like 6'3" and down. So like you see a lot of elite shot putters nowadays are like around 6 foot for rotational throwers at least. So I personally like it because if his if his right toe is pointed this way, then it opens up his hips a little more, so his left hip gets a lot easier to turn, and he'll ground a lot sooner and a lot in a better position. And instead of this, where his left foot's landed early and his right foot's pointing that way, his right foot would point this way, and his left foot would be here. And his hips would already be facing the throw. And then if he held this upper body position, he would get a lot more stretch through the finish. A person who does that very well is, I would say, Lars Riedel probably has the best pre-turn ever. He's a discus thrower, but it's the same principle as rotational shot. All right, so that's just my opinion. But this is a style People coach the pre-turn. People don't coach the pre-turn. I would say for taller people, it's hard to do a pre-turn. So if he was like 6'7", my advice to him would be concentrate on keep turning the right foot instead of stopping. Now, sometimes you see people stop the right foot on purpose to be patient and to feel this left side ground before they throw. So maybe he's doing that. Or he just kind of messed up through the ring. So, again, I don't have any video to compare this throw against, so I don't know if he normally throws like this or if he normally lands in a better position. But I'm just working with what we got here, so don't come at me in the comments. I'm just stating my opinions. So, I really like this left arm. If I can draw a straight line. Hold on. Really like this left arm. Really like this, the shoulder square to the back of the ring. Really nice. And then he gets a nice rotation. And this is a very reminiscent position that Zane Weir gets in. Not so much Fabbri. Fabbri likes to bend this left elbow. But this is like a textbook position right here. And this is basically Zane Weir's finish. Alright, so he turns and he's off the ground a little bit early. So because he's blocked off, so his hips are closed off. And so what I mean by blocked off is that his heel and his left heel and his right heel are in line with each other instead of having the heel to toe relationship. So that's what I mean by that. This, if his left foot was like here, that would be in the bucket. If his left foot was there, that's blocked off, and then like here is perfect. So you just want to get in position where you can turn your hips all the way to the sector, so you can finish down the middle, because that's the most optimal position to be. All right, so he's here. Really nice. Really like this left arm block. In fact, that kind of looks like Joe Kovac's finish. A little less height on it because he wasn't able to rotate fully through, so he couldn't lift as much as he needed to. But still not bad. Still not bad at all. But I just really like this block. So you see, if I can draw a line, really, oh my god. Really nice. Oh, that's as good as it's going to get. You guys get the picture. Really nice left. And you notice it doesn't really matter because his right gets off the ground a little early because his shot put is so far ahead. In one more frame, I think, if this will move. Oh my god. Okay, so he's off the ground here. One more frame, that's out of his hand. I know it's hard to tell because of the quality, because this was 1996. But it's out of his hand by there. He's really not pushing on it anymore. So it takes him only one frame from when his right foot, excuse me, his right foot gets off the ground for that shot to come out of his hand. So that's really what you want. So when you're reversing, you shouldn't stay grounded that long. You shouldn't, because you want that little extra push at the end. You want to stay grounded with this left foot. Because if you stay grounded with both your feet in shot put, that leads to a little slower of a release, in my opinion. So normally you'll see the top guys get off the ground when they have like one more frame to go to release the shot. That's generally what you see. So I would say you should drill staying grounded as long as possible, but when you're going calm speed, you're gonna lift that right foot up a little faster than you normally would, just because you're just not really thinking about technique. All right, so normally in competition, you normally aren't the most technically sound because you're not focusing on technique. You're trying to throw as far as possible. So that's why generally I recommend watching throwers training videos rather than their competition throws, because generally I think that's more valuable because one, if they tell you what they're working on, that's really good to see their process of how to fix it and maybe give you an idea. And then two, they're a lot more technically sound. Like there's a video on Dylan Romani's Instagram, the Brazilian shot putter, like a 2260 guy or 2258, I forget what it was. You know, one of the best shot. I mean, you should know who he is. He's always within medal range of major championships. But there's a very famous video, and I didn't think he could do this, or he was technically sound enough to do this, so he proved me wrong. Not that that matters. He doesn't know who I am. But there's a very, very famous video of him doing a non-reverse, like full speed, and just sticking the finish. So, and from how he throws, I would not think he would be able to do that at the speed he was throwing. So, but obviously in competition, you know, you make a little more technical mistakes a lot of time just because you have a lot more adrenaline in competition, so your body's just going to move a lot faster. So my advice would be, if you're having a bad comp, focus on one thing you're doing wrong and trying to fix it, because if you try and focus on a lot of things, you're going to overthink and you're going to do even worse. If you're having a good comp, don't think of anything. Just keep doing what you're doing because it's working. So that's my advice. Generally, I tell throwers who ask, because I like to think of myself as a good competitor because I'm always super consistent, and barring injury, I always show up and I'm always super close to my PR, and I've always been like that. So I tend to think I compete really well. Now, my PRs just suck, but that's a different story. But I'm usually pretty consistent and never really have, like, I don't think I've ever had, like, a bad meet when I'm not injured. So I tend to think that I'm a pretty consistent thrower in comp. So with over 14 years of throwing experience and still competing, so I've been around a while. So I tend to tell throwers, especially a collegiate level thrower, they shouldn't really think about anything in comp. Like when I throw, I never think about anything. In fact, I think about Panda Express. I try and think of not the throw at all, because if you do that, then you tend to overthink things and be super critical like you would be in practice, and just like super technically focused. So if you make one little technical error, you're going to just throw off everything, your whole mindset. So I usually try to tell people, don't really think, or just think about just something just random. All right? And I also tell people, don't really watch film or anything before you compete or the day of the meet. Don't want of yourself or other throwers. All right? So, but also if that works for you, that's fine. You just have to find what works for you. I'm just telling you what works for me. I tend to just watch a bunch of comedy, like a bunch of like Dave Chappelle or something, or like Bill Burr or something like that, just to make me laugh and in a good mood and calm me down before I throw. Because I tend to compete with a very low arousal compete better with a very low arousal level. I kind of equate it to comparing like Tim Duncan to Kobe Bryant. They're both really, really good top 10 players of all time for the NBA, but two completely different type of competitors. One just doesn't talk, looks like he's about to fall asleep in Tim Duncan, and then Kobe's like yelling, you know, just like super animated and stuff. So I equate it to that. So Tim Duncan just happened to compete at a low arousal level. And there are like tests and stuff you can do online. Back when I went to college and stuff, I was in a sports psych class and I took like a test to see. And I found out I competed at a very low arousal level. And that drastically improved my performance in meets. So I would purposely try and tire myself out because I'm a very speed oriented thrower. And I tried to tire myself out. So I would think I'm going slower, but because of my adrenaline levels, I would go fast, but I wouldn't go too fast where I lose technique. All right. So that's just something to keep in mind as well. So you have to find how you compete well. All right. So it generally takes a couple meets to find that out. But you can't really simulate. Like, you can do like a mock meet and practice, but until you actually compete against other people, it's hard to tell how you'll compete. So I tend to think that if you're new to the sport, try and get into as the earliest meet you possibly can, so that you don't find out that maybe you don't compete well right now at a big meet where it matters a little more. So that's just my advice. But I don't know how we even just got on this topic. But let's get back to Paolo here. So, and I know I'm just messing up his name. Sorry, I'm illiterate. But yeah, let's get back to his throw. Really like this finish. Really like this head tilt. So he's tilting his head. I bet you my life, if we were to see a front view of this throw, he's keeping the corner of his eyes on the shot. So that's what you want, really. You don't really want to keep your head square to the shot, to the where you're releasing. And when people say watch the shot leave your hand, they mean with your eyes, not your head. Because you want to watch the shot leave your hand. And this really only applies to shot. I don't like this cue for discus at all. But for shot put, I like it because it makes you not pull your head. Because if you pull your head in shot put, the shot put's attached to your neck. So if you pull away from that, you're gonna lose a bunch of distance, and you're gonna pull that way if you're a right-handed thrower. So I like to think watch at the corner of your eyes. There's very famous pictures of like Ryan Krauser, Reese Hoffa, and like basically any elite shot putter besides Filip Mihailovic, who watches the shot with his head, which is why I think he has a very slow release. But I like his throw, but I personally wouldn't coach it. But you want to watch it with the corner of your eyes, so you stay connected with it and you don't pull away, and you finish straighter. Now, he's not finished straighter for different reasons because he's blocked off. So, but considering his hips were facing this way, he is throwing in the direction his hips were facing. They just weren't facing in a very optimal angle. And he stays on the shot put very nicely. So let's see where he reverses. So, let's see. His left foot is there. And he reverses, his right foot over-rotates a little just because he was blocked off. So technically, when you reverse, you want wherever your left foot lands in the front, when you reverse, the way you can tell that you hit a good block and you transferred all your energy into the implement is if where your left foot lands, when you reverse, your right foot hits exactly where your left foot landed. That means all your energy moves straight forward into the implement. You transferred energy forward where it should go, and you had a really nice solid block. So if you're watching film of yourself or other throwers, that's a good cue to figure out if you actually did a good finish. So he gets here, really nice. So I would say that's probably around like a 20 meter, like 80 throw, probably. It doesn't say here because I cut off the video a little too soon. But yeah, overall, I think he's a very, very underrated thrower and a very important thrower to the history of throwing. And I say his finish is also very uncharacteristic of this time. You normally see a lot of people. Well, one very uncharacteristic thing is people are actually rotating. Glide was still really big. The glide technique was still really big. Like, the half of the throwers in this final alone were gliders. And now, I don't even think there was a final. For, like, the past couple Worlds and Olympics, I don't think there was. Well, the last Olympics and the last, like, couple Worlds, there was no glider for the men in the final at all. So, times are changing. You rarely see men glide nowadays. But, yeah, that's very uncommon. And another uncommon thing is he actually rotates and stays grounded instead of jumping. A lot of rotators, because this was still relatively a new event, like, the rotational shot hasn't been around for that long. So it took quite a while to catch up, especially for women. Women haven't been rotating and shot for quite some time. It's becoming very popular nowadays. You see a lot more women doing it. But for the longest time, women only glided. But, yeah, so people were still trying to figure out the shot then. And he's one of the few people I see during this time that didn't just jump up in the air. Alright, so I think that's very revolutionary. And I think he inspired Adam Nelson, who inspired, a bunch of throwers. Definitely me. But he's definitely inspired a lot of modern throwers, whether you know it or not. So, yeah, he's very uncharacteristic. Like, John Godina famously had a kind of jump release. That's what Art Venegas, his coach, taught, and I think still teaches to this day, if I'm not mistaken. Although I could be. I haven't talked to him in a while. But, yeah, I think he's just very underrated for his impact. Not necessarily his career. I mean, he did do some stuff. I think he won indoor European the indoor European championships. But, I mean, he's not like the most decorated shot putter. But in terms of importance to the sport, I think he's criminally underrated. So, yeah, once again, I'll link his personal best, his height, weight, and his notable accomplishments in the video description. And hope everyone learned something. Sorry I went on that rant about how to compete. I don't even know why that happened. I forgot. But that just added 10 minutes to the video for no reason. So, sorry about that. But hope you guys learned something. And see y'all next time.